Hey everyone, good evening. This is Greg. How are you? It is Sunday, July 9th, and this is our EDDC 608 Summer 2017 Week 2-3 transition video. So welcome everyone. We've had about 7 or 8 really warm, perfect days in Oregon. That's unheard of. I almost heard myself muttering the R word, rain, and I never think I'm going to say that, but we could use one right now. But no matter how hot it gets, no matter how dry it gets, I always think back to February and March when it's really tough. So we've had a wonderful summer, and so anyway, let's just recap some of the events that have occurred. And first of all, I want to congratulate you again. I want to compliment you. As a whole, the class is composed of very good writers, and as I've said before, there's not a lot that can get in your way of earning a doctorate if you're a good writer. And everybody seems to be doing a good job. I really appreciate that. It's actually hard to teach when people are not strong at writing. So thank you, and always reach out for any help if you need it. The other thing I'd like to say is the research ideas that I read today are really good. You've got some great research ideas, and you've got a great mix of people looking at different things. Nicole's talking about the arts, and people are talking about mathematics and a lot of different things. And this is just great to read these research ideas. So the one component here that we will start this week is all your research ideas as we move towards the final project need to be crystallized in the form of research questions, okay? So as we've said before, the process goes from research idea to research question to testable hypotheses. So let's give an example of that. So let's say that we believe, and we all have beliefs about education, what affects what and what's associated with what. Let's just take an example here. Let's say a teacher's commitment to equity affects student performance on state-based assessments. So that's a good research question. We're asking if something causes something else or something affects something else. Well, and a lot of you had very good research ideas and research questions, but now you have to formulate some precise research questions. That being said, now we move to the phase where the only way we can answer a research question in a quantitative way is by operationalizing variables. All right, so let's say we take this construct, which is equity. Well, equity is a construct, so we have to have a way to measure equity. And what you'll do this week is you'll take constructs and you will develop surveys. Now, a survey is basically a Likert-based questionnaire that helps the individual answer questions such that the construct can be measured, all right? So IQ, intelligence, is merely a construct, and the IQ test is the operationalizing of that construct. We can all take an IQ test and we can get a number. Then we can handle that number quantitatively. So let's say our research question again was: a strong commitment to equity by the teacher affects student performance on state-based assessments. Well, there's no way to treat this until we come up with some clear testable hypotheses. And the first thing is we have to operationalize the variables. So let's say we develop a survey that we give to teachers, and it operationalizes this construct of equity, which means you'll develop some surveys this week. So a survey puts a number on a teacher's level of commitment to equity. Now, the other variable involved is performance on state assessments. So do you mean the mean score on the state assessment of a class? Do you mean the percent of students who have passed the state test in a class? What what precisely do you mean? So the first variable, commitment to equity, has to be operationalized. Then we're going to move to the phase next week where we test hypothesis. So the question came up, how do I answer my research question? Well, what we do is we set up what are called null hypotheses. So in this case, I might say that I've divided teachers into two groups, those who have a strong commitment to equity and those who have less than a strong commitment to equity, as defined by which teachers scored more than 4.2 on my equity survey. That's how I determine whether they have a commitment to equity. Now, that doesn't mean that you're sure they have a commitment to equity. That's just the way that you have decided to measure it. We don't really know if an IQ test reflects intelligence. That's a little complicated. People debate that all the time, but that's the accepted way we have of measuring it. So we divide our teachers into two groups: those that have a real strong commitment to equity, who scored more than 4.2 on the equity survey, and those that have less than a strong commitment to equity. And then we set up a null hypothesis, and we say, well, there's no difference in the mean score of students on the state assessment whose teachers have a strong commitment to equity than the mean score for students on the state assessment who have been taught by teachers with a less than strong commitment to equity. So we have a clear hypothesis that we can test. Now, as we get into week 5 and 6, then we will use a 2-sample t-test and various other statistics to say, okay, we have a sample of students from each group, and from that sample, can we determine whether there is a statistically significant difference in the mean score on the state assessment. So from the 2 samples, the sample of students with teachers with equity and not such a commitment to equity, can we find a statistically significant difference? Now, let's say we do, and we very well may not, but if we find that the students whose teachers had a significant commitment to equity had a higher mean score, then we have some evidence for our theory. We have rejected the null hypothesis that there's no difference in the scores between the same groups, which kind of implies that the teacher will have some effect on the student performance. Now, we don't know that because we're not conducting a controlled experiment. But what you need to start to do, and I'll be more than happy to do this, and if you haven't read the final project, go ahead and give it a quick read. The simulated research chapter 3 and chapter 4 methods section, and you can just start to think about how it's going to look like. So this week is about operationalizing variables, operationalizing constructs. IQ is a construct, cooperation's a construct. Do you communicate with your spouse or girlfriend? That's a construct. It has to be operationalized in order to do any research on it. So I see that everybody is moving very quickly towards really understanding this, and I appreciate it. So the other thing is, what I suggest to students is, if it's Wednesday and you're preparing your Saturday assignment or your journal assignment, just write your assignment in a Google Doc or something. But it's important not to submit the assignment early, because one of the things that we have to keep in mind is this is not a self-paced course. This is a teacher interaction, student interaction course. And things are going to come up during the week, and new concepts are going to come up that are going to let you make your assignments even of greater quality than they are. So it's okay to start them, but don't submit them till you've had time to absorb all the ideas during the week. And other than that, I have nothing but good things to say, and we're coming up on 10 minutes, so everyone have a great week, and I hope your summer's going well. Thank you, and I'll be available for anything you need this week. Okay, bye.